Hi Jay, and hello world. I really liked your talk from last week. I really liked the way you framed it in terms of the history of automation. I think so much of this is so unknown that history is one of the few things we have that can give a meaningful estimate of what to expect in such otherwise rare circumstances. Like this has never happened before. History hasn't repeated this quite yet before, or hasn't had an opportunity to have this happen yet. There's something you said last time, and I fear that as soon as we try to insert it as the way that we're going to solve problems or as a basis for our economy, that is when it's a problem, whenever it is not intended for the common good. I don't think AI doing the economy for us is an inherently bad thing. What worries me so much about it is how do we get there without the power ending up in the hands of a few people? I don't think it was meant to solve our problems. Now, I'm guessing what you mean by this is to solve the problems that technology can't actually solve. Like war, for example. War is a problem about conflict between people. Now, you can make the argument that with enough technology, people can come to understand each other's opinions, and I'm not necessarily against that view, but in that realm, I understand your point about channel it to technology to solve your problem doesn't work because it gives you the option to both make it better and to make it worse. Arguably, we already have enough technology to solve these problems, and we're just not choosing to do that. So it's not the technology that needs to change, it's us that needs to change. And from everything you said then and after that, I'm 100% on board with that. That, I think, is at the core of what must happen if things are going to get better. I wanted to talk this week about something that is AI and Solarpunk related, but quite different to what we've been talking about so far. And that is brain chips. There's a few things that are interesting to talk about here. One is that the kind of AI you need to use for this, it's at the kind of scale that you could probably run at home with a GPU or two. It'll take a while, but the point is it's very much within the realm of green AI. It essentially run on servers, but that's just for convenience, not necessity. In the same way as that it has, like, you can't train a large language model not on a server. I really like the idea of cyborgs. I really like the idea of robots. Like, these little things I think are super cool. It really is just in the realization of the last few years that we're not heading into a utopian tech future. We are heading closer to a cyberpunk future. And it's the lack of autonomy which worries me so much, because then all the concerns around taking over my brain, robots taking over the world, they suddenly become a lot more applicable. But the point I want to make there is, if we're talking about AI, then I think we also got to talk about cyber technology. I think of there being two components to cyber technology. One is the interconnectedness, which is the fact that you are connected to the internet. So this is kind of like the metaverse idea, the idea of, like, I can plug in and hack the system. And the other is the sort of cyborg biology computer meshing, which sort of allows a person to be part robot. What I have always found interesting and cool is the human computer meshing. Basically, how I think of it is, the goal is not to get rid of you in any way. The goal is to make more of you, not less of you. In the same way as my computer, the idealized idea of the computer is to enable me to do more of what I want to do. The main reason I wanted to bring this up is not really even as a response, but because I think it's super relevant and we don't talk about it. Because it's not really big right now. It's becoming increasingly in the sphere of consciousness as Neuralink progresses and Elon Musk gains more control over the system. So this idea of like, who will use Elon Musk's brain chip? Blah, 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 blah. So you made a lot of good points in your video about AI taking over jobs and how it's different this time than previous times where new jobs were created, whereas this time there wouldn't be new jobs. The reason that I was, at least what compelled me to go in the direction of brain chips, oddly was actually because I kind of saw that as the logical solution to what was happening with AI. The trajectory is AI gets better and better and better, and then eventually it's better than people. And so what happens first is people lose their jobs. And then later, you have AI that kind of, it's so much better than you that you don't really understand what it's doing. And I guess takeover from AI seems like it's something that people can't really stop happening. Brain chips is really just, instead of focusing on making AI better, let's make people better. It does introduce entirely new problems that are in some ways more off-putting and scary. As soon as a company has access to your brain, that's like already like, I don't want that. I think that's a good thing for people to feel. I think having just a few companies doing it does not incentivize the market to protect people. But when it's just Neuralink, you either have an IQ of 200 and you're controlled by Elon Musk, or you have your IQ of 100 and you're by yourself, but you don't understand what's going because the Elon Musk 200 people are super smart. So that's not a situation that I think we should. That is not a situation that I want us to end up in, because then it's okay. It's no longer a question of AI taking our jobs, but cyborgs taking our jobs. And that might sound kind of crazy, but the technology is being developed. It is, I would say, AI is happening right now. Robots are a few years behind, and then brain chips are a few years behind that. So the limitation there isn't the AI. The limitation there is the neuroengineering. It is trying to talk to the brain is difficult if you don't understand how the brain works. And unfortunately, we don't really understand how the brain works. We're getting really good at listening to the words people are thinking, seeing the pictures people are thinking, which is scary. But yeah, so we're at that point. We're not really at a point where you can send that back. But currently what Neuralink is working on is trying to help blind people see. So that is going back. And then after that, I think the next goal might be hearing. What brought this to mind actually was the Super Bowl. There was a Meta glasses ad that was maybe a little kind of subtle. I think it had Chris Hemsworth was wearing glasses and he was looking at the kind of the art banana. So I probably heard about Meta glasses, but really there's like they're Ray-Bans that you can speak to and they can see what you see. And I think they can hear what you hear. And then the whole point is that's connected to their AI, so that you are more integrated with their AI. You don't have to take a picture of something. As long as you're wearing your glasses, the AI sees what you see. Now, so the reason I bring up Meta is it's heading in the direction of the metaverse. The metaverse is connectedness. It's not human technology meshing. But I think maybe as you kind of noticed, that they're kind of on a continuum, right? So one is a system that connects me to you, and the other is connecting me to the system, right? If I have a brain chip in my head, then as long as there's a connection between our brain chips, I'm connected to them. You might say, well, how do we know Meta's actually going for the brain chip route? Currently they're not, but they are headed in that direction. So alongside their glasses, they have also made a bracelet. It's like a BCI, but just for your wrist. So without having to move your kind of arm, you can just think about moving your arm. And in sort of your glasses world, your arms would be doing stuff. Essentially, it means within the world of your Oculus glasses, you can do things with your arms without having to use your arms. You just have to think about using your arms. More recently, Meta has created a hat that you can wear that can read your thoughts so that you can text just by thinking. So it's a very similar idea. It's trying to read your brain signals so that you can be more connected to the metaverse just by thinking. Just by thinking, you can move your hands. Your hands are moving in the metaverse. Just by thinking, your words are in the metaverse, right? So I kind of think Meta's playing the long game, really. They are developing these technologies that really nobody else is developing. Yeah, so I think this is the main point I wanted to say with all that is we need to be thinking about AI, but we also need to bring this back to the social media thing, because if I'm honest, when we think about the crisis that we have with technology, before AI, we had the social media crisis. I really think that there's just as much of a need for reimagining there as there is with the AI. And I think they're going to be quite connected in the same ways I just pointed out, that the metaverse connects AI with this, like the world. Through connections to your brain, we both have the capacity to be smarter, which is what Neuralink wants. We also have the capacity to be anywhere, which is what Meta wants. The reason I wanted to kind of connect these dots together is when I ask the question, how do we get to the root of making this about the common good? And the lens that I see this through is social networks. It is how do we change the system so that the system encourages moral change? Because right now, I believe we are in a system that discourages positive morals. So how do we change the system so that isn't the case? That is the question I want to ask. That is the question I ask in response to how do we get to the heart of the problem of the human heart. Thanks for doing this, me, Jay. Until next week.